Hey, let's talk about how 30,000 people are going to lose their jobs at Amazon. Same Amazon that is run by the person who has made millions, billions over the past few months, if not years, right? But 10% of Amazon's corporate workforce is going to be laid off. That is one of the largest layoffs in company history, right? And here's the kicker. While they were preparing the all hands agenda to tell people this, Amazon reported record profits of 17 billion in Q1 and 18 billion in Q2. And you heard that right. Not only did you hear teens, but you heard B for billions. That's right, right? Now, this is in addition to an economy that is dealing with workers who are furloughed, in addition to federal government workers who are furloughed, in addition to an economy that is also dealing with over 300,000 Black women who have reported being laid off in the past year. These are heavy times. Companies are reporting record profits, but at the same time are comfortable reporting record layoffs. So what's going on, right? Now, the official reasoning is overhiring during COVID. Now, this might have been believable back in 2023 when 1,200 tech companies cut more than 250,000 jobs. But in the year of our Lord, 2025, that is no longer something to say. It's no longer a strategy. Like, first of all, the strategy should have never even been to hire this many people, right? It used to be a red flag. It used to be a marker of a bad businessman if you or business person if you laid off people. But now it's the norm. It's happening every holiday season. It's becoming a pattern where companies treat employees as units of a production while celebrating record returns. And it's frustrating. My first layoff happened around the holidays. It was the day after Thanksgiving. We came to work, and you know what the crazy part was? My manager, who by all means was a micromanager, texted me the day before and was like, "Hey, you know, I'm not going to be in the office tomorrow, so don't worry about coming in." Right? Obviously, she knew I didn't love. We were hybrid, and I didn't love coming into the office. Um, so she texted me this or slacked me this, and I was like, interesting. Just for the next day to get this all hands meeting. It's super quiet and awkward in the meeting. And they announced that they're laying off, I think it was about 30% of the company. Right. So the Tuesday after Thanksgiving, I was laid off. And quite honestly, by Friday, I was on a flight. I was like, I just can't. I can't deal with this. And I'll talk about this a little bit later. Everyone has their different ways of coping and dealing with this period. I'll walk through some ways in a minute, but that was my story, right? I will say I felt discarded. I felt depressed. I was angry because, especially in this specific company, I was one of the first people at the company. I built so many systems, and now it's just like, wow, one minute they're bragging to you at board meetings, the next minute you're a number on an Excel sheet, right? And that brings up so many emotions, right? And since then, I've supported numerous people through layoffs. And unfortunately, it seems to be a thing around Q4, right? The November, December time period seems to be a time where tech decides to drop some folks. And it's for so many reasons, it's disheartening. So if you've gotten that email or if you're afraid you might, here's exactly what to do in the first 24 hours and beyond. Because I think that's when you're most scattered and you're like, "Wait, what am I doing?" And just so you don't miss anything, here's what I will share. And I will say all of this with the caveat that you work at your company right now, you have worked there, so you know the laws and regulations of what you can and cannot share, what you can download, etc. So use your discretion. That's all I'll say there. Now, with that said, between the layoff email and the actual termination, I know for me, we got the all hands meeting where they told us, let's say this is at 10 a.m. And then as soon as the meeting was over, I got an HR calendar. So I think that was around 12. So I had maybe about 2 hours that I still had access to everything, right? So I know in this moment you're probably still in shock. However, I also want to share that this is where strategy might be panic and help you in the long run, right? It's time to grab your own oxygen mask, right? So the first thing, if you will, 1A, is to download your receipts, right? Before you lose access, download everything that proves your impact, your performance reviews, your Slack messages, your team messages, emails, project summaries, metric dashboards. Make sure it's all legal, that you can take it all. And again, use your discretion there, right? And why do you want this all in this blah, blah, blah? Why do you want all this information? Why? Because once IT revokes your access, it's gone, right? These become extinct to you, but you will need them because what your receipts do, they can serve a number of different purposes. It can be proof of employment if you're filing for unemployment. It could be good for job applications. It can even be legal protection if you ever need it, depending on what was happening with that layoff, with that let go, right? So these are all their personal reasons, their business reasons, their legal reasons that you want as much as you can have legally. But the thing I really, really, really want to stress, because I think this is where most people will land, is most importantly, we forget. We forget how great we've been, especially when a layoff happens and we're led to believe that a layoff is a failing on our own part. Sometimes our brain doesn't conjure up all of the greatness that we did. When you're laid off, your confidence takes a huge hit and you start questioning what you've actually done that mattered. Did these receipts, metrics actually, were they good? Were they not good? If they were good, why did they lay me? You start having those conversations with yourself, right? So you taking those reviews, those messages, those records, they serve as reminders of who you are, what you've built, and how good you are at what you do. Because when you start updating your resume, networking, prepping for interviews, you'll need that energy. You will need to remember who you are. And those receipts are concrete proof that it's not in your head, it's on paper and other people have validated it. And it'll also allow you to think about who you can network with and who to reach out, right? Because they were vouching for you, right? And those exact examples will help you craft your stories in interviews. Because even if you don't know your wins, your strengths, whatever, when they ask me, tell me about a time you succeeded, you can remember that someone shouted you out for it. So clearly they shouted you out in a public forum. It was clearly a good one, right? And you feed your story, your LinkedIn, your networking calls, all of these need this. But most importantly, your pep talks to yourself, because that's where it all starts. Once you're able to have conversations with yourself and remind yourself with receipts what you've done and who you are, you kind of become your own hype man. And you need that, right? Like you have a Cardi in your head, a Kelly Rowland in your head, yeah? So say all this to say, if you know a layoff is happening, download everything. If you're currently in a job and nothing is happening, still don't wait. Download your receipts before it's too late, right? Whether it's going to be your last time or whether you have a few times, make it a weekly habit, right? Because receipts equals proof and protection and later on a pep talk. And if you need some help with this, there are websites. One is called Palm. I'll put it in the what you call it in the description. It's called Palm Growth, and it's kind of your living career portfolio and feedback hub. And the other one is called Work Receipts, WRK Receipts by Sierra Gross. And this is where you can capture your wins and get HR savvy guidance through tech, right? Through an app. So use those. So that was 1A, and that is download your receipts. 1B is understand your package. When you're laid off, you usually have like a 15-minute meeting with HR and your manager, or your skip level manager. Yeah, maybe your skip level manager, and they will walk you through your package. This is where you're asking questions about how many weeks of severance, when does health insurance actually end? When will they be sending out emails about this? Um, do you have stock options or RSUs, and what paperwork do they need and by when? Because you want to make sure you're getting your money, right? You might also have what's called outplacement services, right? And that's career coaching or resume support. And the company has already paid for this as part of your package. So you want to lean into that, right? If you've been thinking about getting a certification, this is the perfect time to do it, right? This is paid for. You don't have to pay for it. All that professional development you were asking for earlier, this is how they give it to you. Sorry to say it, right? So make sure you understand your package read, and every company, their state laws and then their company policies, right? So read through to see how many days do you have a non-working gap, right? Meaning like some companies you stay on payroll for 2 to 3 months, but you're not working, right? So during that time you're getting paid, you still have health insurance. Some companies it's like, no, by the end of the month you don't have health insurance, and then from there you have your severance, and either you go on COBRA or something else. And we'll talk about health insurance in a bit, right? Um, Actually, we can just talk about health insurance right now. So your options are healthcare.gov, and that's where you can get different plans and look at different premiums, which are usually cheaper, or your company will offer you COBRA, which is 18 months, but you'll be paying the premiums that you were paying before. So depending on what your budget is and your lifestyle is, think through those options as well. Okay. Now, when you have that meeting with HR, review your severance letter, confirm health insurance and date, check stock option deadlines, ask about outplacement support, and note who the HR payroll benefits contact are and who you should be contacting because you will be needing to contact them, right? So and I also wanted us to remember that usually when there's a riff, a layoff, or whatever, you're not the only one. And this sucks for everyone involved, but the silver lining in this, because you're not alone, there's usually a WhatsApp group or a Slack group that kind of forms with everyone who was laid off. So you can kind of keep track of all the different moving pieces, when to apply for unemployment, when to reach out, why insurance is taking so long. Like people are all reaching out to the HR contacts, and once one person has an answer, it's usually the same answer for everyone. So it's really great to join those groups as well. Right. But in this whole section, I really just want to double down and say your severance package is part of your compensation. So make sure you know exactly what you're owed and that you get it, right? Because you earned it, especially with the way things are probably going to go down, right? Now back to health insurance real quick. So you've heard of the layoff, you've downloaded what you need to download, you've confirmed, all the benefits and things that you have. For health insurance, I mentioned going to healthcare.gov, I believe. Healthcare.gov, yeah. Um, or going to COBRA, right? And part of the reason I'm mentioning this is because you have to check when where your health insurance ends, right? Every company's policy is different. And while you still have coverage, you want to make sure that you're able to book everything, the doctor, the dentist, vision, you're filling up your prescriptions, right? Even if it's just a checkup, just so you have a little bit of peace of mind as the season comes up, right? So you want to secure the bag, and that is unemployment and healthcare, right? So again, I'm going to repeat this because I see it come up all the time in content. You will most likely have two options: Cobra, which is a more expensive one because that's the one that your company was using, and you'll be paying the premium, or you can go to healthcare.gov, and that is where they'll give you your local state options and all of that, right? It's the official marketplace, and premiums are often way cheaper. So you might even qualify for subsidies, and those can seriously cut your monthly cost. So please check that. Um, and yes, file for unemployment as well, right? You've paid into it, file for it, and use that to hold you over. And my last part of my one, right? Because this is just all the first things that you need to think through. And this is not necessarily a layoff, but it is something. If you're watching this video, it probably means you're also thinking about your own maybe potential layoff just because of the way the nature of the world is going. Use Warn, WARN, tracker.com. I am going to be that person. That's W for white, A for apple, R for railroad, N for nutcracker, T for tracker. Warntracker.com. Right. And if you're still employed but you're anxious, going to that website tracks company layoff filing, so you can spot if something is happening. Right. If someone is, I think it's if you're laying off more than 50 people, you need to let them know, so you can check that and see. Right. And I really, really want step two is really big, right? And I really want to stress this. Don't blame yourself. Layoffs aren't performance reviews. They're business decisions, right? High performers get laid off all the time. Whole teams, whole departments. You did not cause this. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing, your identity. There's nothing, right? So don't allow your spreadsheet to convince you otherwise. All right. Or someone's math. Step number 3, and this might be the most controversial one. It's a tricky time. And the thought could be, let me get right back in, maybe because you're the breadwinner and whatever, and everyone knows your situation. So if you know for a fact the situation does not apply to you, then it does not apply to you, right? And you can keep moving on. But if it does apply to you, right, take some time, whether that's a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you know what'll work best for you and your budget. Take some time to think through what is next. So often in life, we don't get opportunities to walk away from situations. So sometimes you need something that accelerates that, and this is an accelerator. So take that time, right? And allow the fog to clear up a little bit and ask yourself, what do I do next? I've pivoted my career 5 times. I've been laid off once, but I've pivoted my career 5 times. And one of my biggest pivots was my whole career so far had been education. I was a school social worker, then I worked for nonprofits, I worked in higher ed, I worked in the local government, then I moved to education tech, and then I was laid off from the education tech job, and then I took some time off, and when I came back, I moved over to SaaS, software as a service. Now, I did a lot of pivots, and those are kind of difficult pivots, but pivoting from a fully education realm to a SaaS realm did take some work. And I was able to do that because after the ed tech layoff, I had to reevaluate where's the economy going? Where is my curiosity going? And how can I talk about my skill sets to get where I want to go? Right. And then I moved over. So in this season, if you're able to think about what do I do? What do I want next? Am I going to stay in the same lane? Am I going to pivot? What environments let me thrive, not just survive? And this was really, really big for me. When I was transitioning, I knew I did not want my old company's culture. So I found a company that was very, very different. And I work in a space where I work with a ton of companies. So I'm able to quickly spot company culture. And company culture makes a big difference, right? So allow yourself to think through that. I use an exercise called like what's in your garden, right? And that's an inventory of your gifts, your wins, your relationships, right? Because this allows you to really think about what are you attracting in your life, and what are you able to nurture, right? And that can allow you to decide, what do I want to plant? What do I want to move? What do I want to weed out in my next chapter, right? Once you have this down, meaning that you've done an inventory of your skills and you have understood what skill sets you have, how you bring value and impact, and you're ready to move on to the next thing. Right now, in this current economy, I do suggest having a niche, right? So, if you want to be in customer success, if you want to be in sales, if you want to be in marketing, if you want to be in product, whatever your thing is, be very specific in there. Because what you're doing from now on is when you're ready and you're updating your resume and your LinkedIn, only after you've decided the story that you're telling, you need to then cut the fluff. So you're not talking about any team player this or goal oriented that. What you're doing is you're highlighting the impact and outcomes of your work. So when people open up your resume, when they scroll to your LinkedIn, whatever, you want them to very quickly understand the problems that you've solved, right? The money you've made or saved and the time that you've saved, right? All in service of this particular thing. So if you know product really well and you're able to talk about how you are able to ship a product out really quickly or be able to get feedback, all of that. But anyone who's in product marketing or product management, whatever you're in, sees you and says, oh, they can solve a problem that's in our team. And that's what you want for yourself, right? So the message should scream, I am your person. Stick to that storyline so that can happen. Yeah. On LinkedIn, make sure that you're attracting people. Your headline should be searchable, not clever. Searchable, not clever means that read job descriptions, read what people in the roles that you want to have on their headlines, and see what recruiters are searching for, right? Look at the post that recruiters are writing and what they're putting in there. And that's what goes on your headline because you want to be findable. You want to be searchable. Yeah. And if you would like to do this, you can also do a layoff post, short, confident, strategic, that is clearly stating, what you're looking for, stand firm in the wins that you downloaded earlier, and where you're going next. right? And you always, 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 always need to understand that you are selling a product and that product is your value, right? So always tell me what problem you're solving because people want people who solve problems, right? Once you update your resume, your LinkedIn, and you have a really good talk track that you're ready, then you start reaching out, right? And you're not reaching out to say, hey, this, I see this job is open. You're reaching out to reconnect with humans. Other people who were laid off with you, maybe they started job searching too, and maybe they've landed something, they know what you're going through. Maybe it's old coworkers, maybe you're posting on LinkedIn more and people are reaching out or you're reaching out, right? Essentially, what you're doing here is you're telling your story, you're asking for feedback, and you're sharing your wins, right? And I'll tag a post in description of when I was coming back from my sabbatical and my layoff, what I did and how I landed my role, right? Most opportunities start with a conversation, not a job board. And that's not to say that you cannot land a job cold applying. You can, but it's easier to connect with people. So try that route. And I just want to stress that it's really, really important to take care of you. A layoff, a riff is so, so hard psychologically. Like it's something that unless you've gone through, you really can't explain, right? It's more than just a career crisis. It's really an emotional one. It's a deep one that really makes you think a bit, makes you feel, right? So in this time, sleep, move, talk to people who get it, do things that remind you you're more than your job title, right? Feel the feels, reset and rebuild. So I'm going to close out by saying if you were affected by layoffs or furloughed and wondering what next, I'm deeply sorry, right? And there